It's shiny. It's awesome. It's cool. It's a piece of hardware that I can give for my baby boy.
Porque eu não comi nada antes.
You know, absolutely. Hold on, I'm talking, brother. 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 Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello, and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood. And we're back. We're back. Tom is back from Italy, and I am back after defeating coronavirus. And got to say, I'm hyped to be back, listeners, because Tom has actually joined me this week. Many things for us to talk about, many things to get excited about. Tom, first of all, how was Italy?
Joe, are you sure you beat coronavirus? It sounded a little bit like a split decision win to me, a bit questionable. Might be running that one back.
Yeah.
Now, look, Italy was amazing. No coronavirus there at all. Everybody feeling great, enjoying the sun. And, Joe, I was looking around those Italian streets and I was thinking, is Marvin Vittori really Italian?
Really? You didn't see any blokes with really large heads who were just like yelling all the time?
No, that cast of the skull I think is unique to Vittori. So don't expect anyone to come in by storm, especially not at that weight class. Maybe down at lower weight classes we could be talking.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I don't know why, but Italy's never struck me as a fighting country. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. Is there much need to become a fighter in Italy? Is there really that desire to be there?
Joe, make love, not war. You know, it's so beautiful when you're eating that damn fine food, all those varieties of pasta to consume. Who's thinking about fighting? Sun shining.
Exactly. Right, Tom, let's go into this. We're going to have a bit of a catch-up this week, listeners. Lots of big news has happened. Some subpar events have also happened, so we've got those to look over as well. But, Tom, let's talk about... I think this is maybe this will be the biggest retirement that we've had this year, and probably for the next few years, unless Conor has actually officially retired, is Jose Aldo has retired. I gave my thoughts on it a couple of weeks ago.
Joe, you incensed me. You incensed me with those thoughts, and I demanded we talk about it.
Go on.
Especially because he has been cut officially from the roster now. It's official. He is retired. It's true. Now, the thing that got me, and I think you knew at the time that you were triggering me. I was trying to enjoy my holiday, but you're making these comments, and I had to get back to discuss it.
Yeah.
He wasn't done, Joe. He had more. There was more Jose Aldo to give.
I know there was more to give. There was definitely more to give. It's just, to what end are we...
The champ,
we're going to...
Rio. King of Rio fighting in his home country to see out, retain the belt, and retire.
Wait, hold on. So you would have had him fighting for the title in Rio?
I'm saying, Joe, forget that nonsense with Merab. I think we already signed off on that. Cut that one from the record.
But they've already done that. When he lost to Moraes, they've already done that. You can't do it again.
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah.
Losing to Moraes, that's a bad look. But I'm just saying, like, look what he did after that, you know? It's just this setback against Merab. That's the only thing against him. Now, look, let's just talk about where he's left the Bantamweight division, how it is now post Jose Aldo, because we were talking about these kind of tiers that were emerging in that division. Freed up one more space in the rankings for Jack Shaw to get in there at 15 now.
Great.
Now, we did have Sandhagen versus Song. I think that served to underline the point we were making, where we've got this kind of like lead pack.
Yeah.
Did you see it like that?
There's definitely a lead pack. It goes down to, is it Vera at 6? Is Vera at 6? Yeah.
Vera's at 5.
All right, Vera's at
Rob Font after that. So
there's gap. There's the gap, quite literally. And then you've got 5 down to 15 and beyond, where you've got a mix of guys who have they've attempted that leap and haven't quite made it. Like Song, like Rob Font. And then you've got these other guys, these unknown quantities, these really young guys who are like, they're starting to put the resume together of like, I want to crack at one of those top 5 guys. The thing is that out of that top 5 now, there's not really anyone that's that vulnerable at the moment, other than Jan, who has got Sean O'Malley next week. That's such a huge leap. One. That's such a huge leap, isn't it? You just don't see that now. Yeah. And I guess now, basically, quite a few of these guys, and I'm thinking of, Nurmagomedov, Jack Shaw, Yanez,
Ricky
Simone. They're going to have to wait for those top 5 guys to face each other, and then whoever loses, that's the sort of scrap that you're going to have to sort of cling on to, because otherwise you're just going to be fighting guys who are ranked right next to you the whole way, and that is such a tough road. I really feel like bantamweight, you're not going to see guys go on those sort of Tony Ferguson 12-13 fight unbeaten runs. I feel like that's so unlikely.
Is that part of why you're comfortable to let Aldo go now? Because the division is in such good stead. The competition is so high. And
yes.
It was, ultimately 2-3 years down the line, an ever increasingly grim picture for Jose.
There's that. And also, it's like, do I need to see him lose badly? Like, the arguments of like, yeah, but he's not been viciously knocked out. Well, apart from the Conor one, but like, he hasn't been vicious. He had the beat down off of Jan, but he was beating guys. He was beating really good fighters, and it's like, I just don't want him to lose to guys who he wouldn't have lost to in that fashion before.
I guess for me, it's just like, because he was still in that lead pack, You've lost a true contender who did offer something different. I think if I was comfortable seeing him kind of, start to get caught by the likes of Rob Font, who of course he beat and underlined he's not there, or someone like Ricky Simone even, maybe a young Wolf coming through, not Merab, not like that, then I'd have been like, all right, he can go. But he has left the bantamweight division in prime shape.
Yes.
Now, it wasn't just Song, Yadong, and Corey fighting. We did have the return of Raoni Barcelos last weekend against Trevin Jones. Did you see that fight?
I did indeed. It was. I thought it was impressive. I thought Barcelos looked good. He
had a lot of promise when he first came into the UFC. We thought he was going to kill some fools.
Yeah. The thing is that like, I struggle to get too excited for a win over Trevin Jones. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's about as easy a fight as you're going to get in the bantamweight division. Yeah. But it was the Valuev loss, wasn't it, that sort of like ruined.
Who's since been cut, by the way.
Yeah, I get this is the mad thing, isn't it, about bantamweight, is that any of these guys can beat anyone else. Like what I'm saying, like that sort of 12-fight win streak. Are we going to see that in this division? I really feel like we're not going to. So.
It's a really tall order, and just following up with the other bantamweight fight that took place, well, 2 bantamweight fights that took place. Now, Guido Canetti, Joe, I did tune in to your preview episode and learned that Guido Canetti, he wasn't that fella from Combate.
No, he was not that guy.
But he did beat Randy Costa.
He did. That was Randy Costa. That is a really unfortunate run, isn't it? Because it's like, he was so close to beating Yanez. He was really close to beating Yanez. It's just one of those guys who he just literally has only gas for about 4 minutes. He has gas before he cannot. I don't know. He's a young guy, and I feel like being in the UFC at this stage, getting cut at this point, he'll be able to develop and come back. Like,
has he been cut? Is that you calling for him to be cut? Or
no, he has been cut.
Oh,
he was officially cut. Yeah.
Oof. I mean, I think it's the right call. He's moved to 6-4 now. That's a bad look so early in your career. But Guido Canetti, Joe, he's gone to 10-7. Do you see him lighting up? Is that why Aldo retired? Is that worries about
the oncoming threat of Guido Canetti? Yeah. No, Canetti's fine, isn't he? Like, what's there to really say?
I don't know, Joe. You told me he was from Combate. I'm still waiting for the breakdown.
That's Marcelo Rojo I was thinking of, by the way, from Combate. He's
the ex-Man United defender.
No, he has lost to Kyler Phillips and Charles.
Joe.
He's lost to Kyler Phillips and Charles Jourdain in
Joe,
the UFC.
I'm here to restore order on this pod, all right?
Right,
none of this nonsense. Now,
right. Bantamweight.
Now,
look. Yeah. We're talking about Randy Costa. We're talking about Barcelos. Let's get things straight here. They ain't getting into that upper echelon ever, and neither is your man Guido Canetti or Marcelo Rojo. Okay, they're just not going to get there. It's just, I'll ask the question to you. Out of the guys that we've sort of mentioned, who do you think is going to be the guy to break into that top 5 and maybe make it a top 6?
That's an interesting question, Joe. Now, my low-hanging fruit I think there is a little sneaker in that top division who's waiting to be caught. All right,
in the top five.
Now I can't talk about it because we're going to be talking about it next week.
Oh,
all right. Now that's a little nod to UFC 280. I know our listeners will be back tuning in.
For
the preview there. The biggest event, I don't know, that I can remember. Has there been a bigger one this year, Joe?
This year, no. There's not been anything of this level. So much so that BT have actually made it a pissing pay-per-view in the UK. The only one this year, and it's on in UK time.
Yeah, let me pick out the language for that because that cracked me up. Let me find that. It's a rare, and it certainly is rare. I will give them that. Box office event and will not be available to standard BT subscribers. Peasants like you, Joe.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I have to use
additional PPV fee will be required.
I use my dad's BT login, and I don't know if I can ask him to get the pay-per-view and for me to send him the money. I think honestly it would be more dignified if I was asking him for pornography in a hotel room. Do you know what I mean? One of those services. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's nonsense, isn't it? Apparently, BT do this a couple times a year for big cards. I've not seen that this year, so.
Well, especially given the timing of the events, I guess for us in the UK, it's pretty good going on for Abu Dhabi time. Am I right in saying?
Yeah. Prelims start at 2:00 in the afternoon. So that's alhamdulillah indeed. I cannot wait. I'll be here all day in my filth watching that every single fight.
Now, just rounding back now, Joe, without looking too much ahead to next week. If you're going to pick one guy, I mean, we've already mentioned the Sean O'Malley fight. That is his chance to leap into the elite class. We won't comment on how we expect that to go, of course.
No.
Now, for me, I think it's got to be Ricky Simone after the win over Jack Shaw.
Yeah, it's Ricky Simone for me as well. Right. It's Ricky Simone. His last two fights, the TK over Sunsal, and then the sub over Jack Shaw. He's rocketing, Joe. He bulldozed them. He absolutely bulldozed those guys. It was
an unbeaten Jack Shaw prior to that.
But
now there is.
What's the problem though? Is who's he going to face? Is he going to face what? Rob Font?
I think he should fight Merab.
Oh, Merab's not taking that. He's not taking that. He's waiting for that Marlon Vera fight. Yeah. He's waiting for that.
I want to give Merab the toughest hill to climb. To be honest, that's my feeling. You beat Jose Aldo like that. you make the man retire. You're fighting uphill from there, mate. You got to win me back over. Now there is a bantamweight fight to look forward to on this weekend's card. It is the co-main. Jonathan Martinez coming in. He's had a few notable wins.
Yes, indeed. He's facing off against Cub Swanson, who the last time I watched Cub Swanson, he won his fight and brought all his family into the cage and started crying. So you're like, oh, he's retiring. Apparently not. He's decided, bantamweight's the one.
Sad. Yeah, he's just sad about that weight cut, Joe. He just knows how the quality of life's going to go down. I mean, is Cub Swanson a bantamweight?
He beat Darren Elkins in his last fight. It's like that was last year. Oh God, what my brain has remembered is quite sad, isn't it? But yeah, he's facing Jonathan Martinez, who, I mean, who's he beat? He's beat Vince Morales.
He's on a 3-fight streak now. He beat Alejandro Perez.
Yeah.
Thomas Almeida.
Yeah.
Did get upset by Davey Grant, succumbing to a KO.
Frankie Sainz.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Martinez, he's another one of those fellas. He's just out there in that 15 to about 50 range that we seem to have in bantamweight.
Yeah.
A win here, co-main against Cub Swanson. He can announce himself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is what's missing, isn't it? It's like you've got your names where we go he's beat Alejandro Perez, but it's he hasn't got the casual Cub Swanson win, has he? He doesn't have that on there. And you know what? Actually, I've got to say fair play to Cub Swanson for actually taking this fight. This is not an easy one to potentially go out on. In your last, because Cub Swanson's at the end. How many more fights is he realistically going to have? What, maybe 2 or 3?
As few as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's this isn't a good one. to go out on. This isn't Darren Elkins, this isn't, I'm trying to think who else is a featherweight jabron. Alex Caceres or someone like that. It's
Hey Joe, rank 15.
Yes, indeed. So again, it's a good one for Martinez to be getting. It's a good one to be able to, slightly announce yourself. Co-main event, it's a weak fight night card. The main event should be Askarov versus Royval. I mean,
well, let's get to that right now. I mean, so we're talking about this Saturday's card, Grasso versus Araujo, which has been made the main event.
Do you remember? Can I just bring up this fight just quickly? Do you remember our debate the last time we talked about Araujo of how do we pronounce her name? And we went an entire pod calling her Araujo. No, actually, hold on, we got it the wrong way around. It is Araujo, and we've been pronouncing her as Araujo, which is very much not correct. So,
well, look, this lady, she's going to go out and grab some headlines, Joe. We're all about the cream of the crop.
Absolutely.
We want to enjoy the sport. If I can't pronounce your name, that's not my fault. I'm a humble fan.
Exactly.
Like, go in and show me why I should know how to pronounce your name. Anyway, we skip straight over it, Joe. Any interest in this main event?
No. There's no interest to anyone ever.
Who do you lean towards winning?
Maybe Grasso, Araujo. I mean, I don't know. Neither of them are that impressive. I mean, again, it's always the issue of women's flyweight, and I've said it every single time: is you're basically, you get wins so that you can then lose to Shevchenko. Like that's what you're building yourself up to, because you're not going to beat her.
Are you saying, like, for you're more of a specialist, you're more of an analyst of the women's strawweight division?
I prefer women's strawweight because it's actually good.
I just want to draw your attention to your prediction last weekend. You had Jan beating Dern. Dern beating Jan.
I did indeed, yeah.
Jan Janel, that is. Now, we had a commenter on our YouTube channel. He tried to correct you. He tried to tell you how it was going to go.
You did?
Yeah. I think it's time to listen to the fans, Jim. You did it right.
I did. I do apologise. I just thought that Mackenzie Dern at some stage would learn how to do a takedown. How wrong I was. Did you watch that fight, didn't you?
Parts of it, yes. What I could manage.
It was so frustrating because her grappling is so good. It's like if I'm her coach, I'm saying we're going to do no jiu-jitsu, and you are just going to learn trips and takedowns and ground and pound, and that is it. And you're going to learn how to jab, get a 1-2 in
for me.
Get a clinch.
That's where it starts going wrong, Joe. Like, Jesus, it makes me wince every time her boxing stance. The way she works in towards clinch positions. She just has to basically take it on the face. That is the strategy. Like, straight on the face until she can blindly reach out and hopefully grab a leg.
Yeah. She literally scooted on her ass to Jan and got that was in the second round. I mean, I did find it moderately ridiculous, people going like, oh, either of those rounds 10-8. 10-8? Are you joking me? Literally, are you joking me? Jan came out of that just going like, whew, God, that was tiring, and like that's about it. She wasn't like, her face wasn't hanging off, she didn't take any significant ground and pound. Like,
Joe,
irritating.
Talking about faces hanging off,
yes,
and looking back to
wait, are we not going to talk about Askarov versus Royval? Because we should.
Joe, you've just sidetracked me right there. Take a look at that. Take a look at that in the.
Hold on.
Reaction to the image I've sent you there, Joe.
1 second. This is going to be horrendous, isn't it? Hold on. Is this what I think it's going to be?
It's absolutely.
You bastard! Oh, I hate that picture. I hate that picture so much. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Oh, it's opening now. Oh my God. I've pressed it like 5 times. No, I'm not looking at that.
Zoom in coming in. Now, what we're looking at here, guys, talking about faces hanging off, I had to come back, and I know Joe mentioned what a warrior, what an absolute human from another planet Gregory Robocop Rodriguez is. But my word, is that his brain?
That's an artery, isn't it? Like that's an artery going to his brain.
I mean, shit. That's the thing that somebody landed punches on too much on Brendan Sharp, and that's
That's why he's a stand-up comedian now. Yes, allegedly. It's man, like that is honestly one of the worst things I've ever seen. Yeah. That's one of those where you look at it and you then go back to the fight and see his post-fight interview where he's smiling and have a good time. You're like, yeah, there's a reason why I'm not a fighter. There's a reason why he is. Like, yes. He's an insane human being.
He was very chill after post-fight as well.
I mean, it still bugs me that he's younger than me. Like, and he looks the way he does. Bro, he looks like Vanderlei now. I always say it. He looks like Vanderlei Silva now. Like, anyway,
but we are big fans. I mean, he's boy status, right? He's inducted.
What is he boy status? He's top 5 boy status. Like he's top boy right there. Top boy's Joaquin, but
he's closing in. Greg Rodriguez. Now the guys on the Reddit community on the MMA, they love him too.
Of course.
And,
how do you not
to them?
How do you not love a guy who just charges forward and just takes it on the chin and just breaks people with his will? And it's not like he's technically boring either. You know, it's like Luke. You know, it's like where like his will. I mean, maybe not anymore, but his will literally just breaks people, and he's got sick technique behind it. Oh, yeah. Love it.
Now this, I mean, for me, from the weeks that I've missed, this is the standout moment.
What, Rodriguez?
Yeah, ahead of Sandhagen's song. Yeah. Is there anything else? You know?
Not really. Not really.
I mean, what stands out when you think about, you know,
Sandhagen
solo? Yeah. Okay.
Sandhagen stands out. That stood out to me. You know, I thought he was. It was what we talked about before of the definition of that line that's now been set at bantamweight, and the reason that line is so clearly there now is because of Sandhagen.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like if Song had won, you'd be like, "Oh, who's this? Is he going to be able to get?" And it's like, no, he's not of that level yet.
He did give Sandhagen problems though.
Oh, for sure.
Did I catch you right saying that you had it 2-2 going into the 5th?
I think I had it 2-2. I'll have to go through my notes.
Because I had it 3-1 for Sandhagen.
No, I had it 3-1 Sandhagen. I just checked.
Right.
Yeah, 3-1 Sandhagen for me. But second round was close. But 3 and 4, Sandhagen started to pull away. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an incredible performance.
All right, credit to Corey then. Corey and Robocop, they are our standouts from the last couple of weeks.
Can we just
go
back to... I just want to go back to Askarov Royval.
Yeah. Just leading you in there, Joe, because we've been through Grasso Araujo. Jesus.
Araujo.
Fans, chip in. I'm sure, Joe, if you do a Venn diagram and you have like fans of Viviane Araujo and fans of Hold On, I'm Talking Brother, do you think those circles touch? If they do, if you are that man, message us.
Yeah, or actually preferably don't. Like, please don't message us.
Find another podcast.
Yeah, you filthy man. I know what you're doing. And It's disgusting. You were enjoying that Mackenzie Dern fight last week, you pig. Right, Askarov versus Royval. Yes. Let's talk about this. This is a hell of a fight. I mean, Royval, he's a hell of a lot of fun. He had that banging fight with Matt Schnell, his last fight, and then he had the Bontarin fight as well. We love Bontarin, by the way. He's a big boy for us. But he's facing Askarov. I honestly think if Royval wins, he should be the number 1 contender. He's beaten Bontarin, wow. He's beaten Schnell, and if you beat Askarov, who should be ahead of you at there? Oh, actually, hold on, I take it back. I know, I take it back. Pantoja is weighing in, isn't he? Yeah, he's weighing in as the backup for Figueiredo versus Moreno 4. So actually, I take it back. Pantoja's
there.
Pantoja's the number 1. Yeah. He should be. To be honest, I feel like he should be fighting for the belt next anyway. If Moreno wasn't the interim champ.
Yeah,
But yeah, Askarov versus Royval. What are your loins saying about?
Well, Joe, this is 4th versus 5th. You know, you've mentioned the other guys in the picture there. Of course, Moreno, number 1 contender, Pantoja below him, and Kai Kara France. He was the first man to beat Askarov. Hell of a fight. Got me very excited about Kai Kara France.
Yes.
Now it did expose Askarov because he wasn't able to impose his game. Kai Kara France was too fast.
Yep.
Too fast. Now, my instinct is that Royval will be more inclined to lean into an Askarov-friendly game.
Yes.
I think that favours Askarov.
I agree as well. I think also Royval, his strikes just feel a lot longer than Kara France. Kara France is a lot more. He's a tighter sort of shell, and then he sort of explodes from there. Royvali's got kind of
power.
Yes. Whereas Royvali's kind of got those longer arms. He likes to sort of like reach out there, jab his way in, sort of feel his way into that fight. Whereas, Kara France, he can just like explode like across the cage in a way that I feel like Royval won't, and I feel like will fall into Askarov's.
I think it's going to be a grappling matchup, Joe. Really, that's what I expect.
And you think Askarov will get the better of him?
And I suspect, that will be the case. So I'm picking Askarov, and then he's put a gap there. Much like we referred to in bantamweight, he's starting to build that gap behind him.
Anything else on this card that stands out to you?
Sure. I mean, I wanted to leave it to you, but one of your your picks, one of your men from way back when, Jacob Malkoun.
He's back against Nick Maximov, a guy who I actually quite like. He's one of the Nick Diaz's training partners. He's fought a couple times in the UFC. It's pretty fun. He's got some nice boxing. I think the
Malkoun show rolls on, Joe. It's another wrestling special, I think.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Are you not hyped for Misha Serkinov versus Alonzo Menafield?
That's sloppy. I mean,
Jordan Wright versus Dusko Todorovic?
No, not having that either.
I mean,
I think to be fair, let me just be clear about both those fights. We've had some sloppiness on these fight night cards, and I think at least these guys are established in the UFC. Records not too shabby, they've got some wins, they've got some minimal name recognition. I'm okay with having these guys on the main card of this fight night.
Yeah, fair enough. Jordan Wright as well, give him some credit, did help produce our favourite promo of all time, the Joaquin Buckley one. This was after Buckley had knocked him out in the second round. He then cut that sick promo on James Krause. For the first time ever, I'm actually not going to drop it because you should know it already, listeners.
Yeah.
Right, should we move on to some other new stuff?
Well, there was one last fight. I mean, it's a kind of measure of how far the man has fallen in recent years that we're just going to brush over. Another former mainstay of the bantamweight mix-up, Rafaela Sunsal. Now, it wasn't so long ago, Joe, that he had one of the biggest streaks going back at bantamweight. Now, he's fallen a long way since then.
Was it Moraes that ended his run?
So, I mean, the thing is, he's on a 4-fight loss streak now. I think it was Dillashaw. Let me just go back through. Yeah, Dillashaw back at UFC 200. He was upsetting a streak that went on for 7 fights. Lost to Dillashaw and then had 4 wins after that against Rob Font, Aljamain Sterling, Marlon Moraes. He had beaten Dillashaw before that loss by split decision. So he was right there, Joe. But obviously, the fact you didn't want to give a nod to Rafael since he got knocked out by Cody Garbrandt and then by Ricky Simone does show how far he's fallen. Could be the end of the line here with this fight.
I mean, Victor Henry in his first fight in the UFC beat Barcelos. Like, that was his debut earlier this year.
That's what I'm saying, Joe. They just keep coming. They just keep coming at bantamweight. So could be a good chance for Henry to build some profile and enter that top 50 that we've mentioned is so competitive.
Yes, indeed. Should we... I'll tell you what. We'll do this. We're going to move on, listeners. We're going to get to some fight announcements in a bit, but first we've got a couple bits of news that we should get to. Let's start off with the biggest piece of news, at least for me anyway, was the death of Antonio Inoki. Antonio Inoki essentially created mixed martial arts in his fight with Muhammad Ali. Which was a huge pay-per-view draw. Antonio Inoki was a famous pro wrestler in Japan who had a legit wrestling background. He founded New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is Japan's biggest pro wrestling company. And in the 80s, hooked up with Muhammad Ali, and they had a pay-per-view match where it went to a draw. Inoki versus Ali. Have you ever seen this fight?
I haven't seen it, Joe.
You're not missing much. It's mostly Inoki crawling on his ass towards Ali, who's like stood above him, not sure what to do, and then Inoki sort of kicking him in the legs from there. It was somewhat fixed. But it was a major moment, cultural moment, and the originator and the creator of this idea was Antonio Inoki, which in turn gave birth to the idea of mixed martial arts from there. Obviously, people then took that idea on to develop it further. Inoki, though, I mean, he was a wild dude, massively so. I mean, I'll tell you this story as a sort of encapsulation of him. There's the Brazilian mixed martial arts promotion called Jungle Fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's been referenced a couple of times before on this podcast. And Enoki was there for the first ever Jungle Fights event, and they held it in the jungle. And Enoki came in on a boat, and he was waving to the crowd, and the crowd were cheering and giving him a wave back. And then Enoki stripped off, dove into the water, and then swam through up to the cage, got up in the cage, and started waving and cheering. At which point, people ran over and said, like, "What are you doing? Why did you do that?" He said, like, "Well, come to give the people a show." And he said, like, that water is filled with piranhas and crocodiles. You could have easily died. And he turned around, looked at the water, shrugged his shoulders, and walked off. He was a wild man. He was involved in hostage negotiations with Saddam Hussein in the 80s. Yeah. He got the release of some Japanese journalists from Iraq in the 80s because Saddam Hussein's son was a big pro wrestling fan, and Enoki went over there, converted to Islam, and became friends with Saddam and got the release of these Japanese prisoners. He was friends with Kim Jong. Yeah, he was friends with Kim Jong Il. Did put on a huge pro wrestling show in North Korea, the biggest pro wrestling show ever. 300,000 people there. And he's just a completely wild dude, like an absolute legend. Lived his life to the fullest. Even got into politics. Got done for embezzlement. Got then kicked out of his seat, and then ran for an election again and won again. 5 years later, he also almost killed pro wrestling, or at least New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan, by putting in pro wrestlers against legit fighters, including Yuji Nagata. In his first ever pro fight, put him in there with Mirko Krokop, who proceeded to knock him out in 30 seconds. And Enoki said, "You've embarrassed yourself, you shamed yourself, you must go back in there and fight again." And Nagata said, "Sure." And so Enoki put him in there with Fedor, to which he then lost again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Enoki loved the blend of the real with the work, with the fake, if you will. Incredible man, incredible life, and one of a kind.
R.I.P. Enoki.
R.I.P. Enoki, indeed. Shall we talk about a prospect, Tom? Bo Nickal.
Yeah, with the death of one name,
Yes.
From the fire emerges another.
Yes.
I think it's Bo Nickal you want to talk about, Joe.
It is indeed Bo Nickal.
Everyone's talking about him, right? Well, everybody's talking about him.
What do you make of him?
Well, he's put himself out there. I know you've already shot your load and told us he's going to be the champ within a year. I think that was your
within 10 fights.
Within 10, that was right. Sorry,
within 10 career fights. That's what I meant. So, but I'm actually going to change that. I'm going to say by the time he has.
What do you mean?
By the time he has his fifth...
Our word is our bond, Joe.
All right. It'll be definitely by his 10th fight, he will have fought for the title.
Now, he's been talking all sorts of mad stuff. He's saying, Khamzat, no problem. His wrestling is not on my level.
It's
Can't
not.
compete with me.
It's not on his level.
Well, this is the thing, though, Joe. We know that MMA wrestling, it's different. We've seen it before. We've seen Yoel Romero having a hard time against Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, but Yoel is...
an Olympic wrestler.
I guess so, but his game was never built around wrestling. He just loved throwing his hands so much, didn't he? So
you're saying from what we've seen early career Bo Nickal on the Contender Series, now let's be clear, he's been smoking people.
Yeah.
Taking them down, mauling them.
His three...
Khamzat style.
His 3 pro fights are under 3 minutes of footage.
So very much in the mould of Khamzat. What do you make of him coming straight out and trashing Khamzat like this? This is...
I love it.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I love it.
I like it.
This is great.
You see, you look at people's comments and they're like, who is this fool?
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
He's so disrespectful. He hasn't earned the right to talk like this. And it's amazing, because Khamzat came out of the same, even more obscurity. And just 1 year, 1.5 years later, he is now, the glitterati of MMA.
I honestly think
So he's like so enshrined that Bo can't even come in and talk about him. It's funny how it happens.
Yeah, it is. It is odd. I do think over the next year, though, Bo Nickal will become the guy. He's facing Jamie Pickett at UFC 282 in December. Pickett is probably going to be the toughest guy he's faced so far, and he's going to smoke him. Like, it's not going to be competitive at all. He's opened up as a minus 1,800 favourite against Jamie Pickett. Oh my God.
I don't think I've seen that before. Actually,
if you're Jamie Pickett, you're putting $1,000 on yourself, aren't you? You got to. You got to. Like, that's. You have to think that, like, this guy, maybe I could catch him. I mean, you're not. That triangle that he got on the Contender Series, he rolled through and he sunk that in with no hands. Like, that is insane level skill. Like, he is so good.
All right, what could upset him? I mean, you're giving the most glittery,
Adesanya's takedown defense.
Yeah.
The fact is, Bo Nickal's quite a small middleweight. Like, he's going to be competing at middleweight. He's not a big middleweight, and I think Adesanya in the near future will eventually move to light heavyweight, and I think that probably will be the permanent move for him.
Now, all right. So you're talking about a rangy striker who can manage the distance.
Yes, who has got very good takedown defense.
Hopefully has the takedown defense. So that's not Darren Till then, Joe. Because Darren Till, he's been out there. Bo Nickal, he's looking good. Be good to meet up with him in the future in the octagon. Drive the left hand through his skull.
Is he?
That's a tweet. That's straight out of Darren Till's account.
Bro,
he's calling. He wants it.
Well, good for him. Good for him. It's the thing of, if I can beat this guy, I will get a title shot. Like, that's what it's going to be like for these guys already. Like, can I beat Bo Nickal? If Strickland beat Pereira, he would be facing Adesanya in November.
Good Lord.
Could you imagine?
What an embarrassment to the sport. I mean, come on. In hindsight,
for sure.
Sean Strickland in a title matchup against Adesanya, that's just terrible.
Exactly. But that is what is potentially on the line if you face a Bo Nickal and you are of that standard. Gilbert Burns when he fought Hamzat. It's the same thing. Like, the Leech when he fought Hamzat. Well, if I beat this guy, this is how these guys think. They don't think like me and you. Their artery is showing to the world and they're smiling about it. Like, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, now look, I mean, Bo Nickal, he's saying he won't even fight on the prelims. He's too big.
Yeah.
He's too big a star. He said, I'm out. I'm retiring.
Yeah.
He thinks he's prime time.
I honestly think he's worth a pay-per-view slot. Bro,
I love it. I love it. I love another one in the mix. He's not even fought in the UFC, Joe. Come on.
Well, that's the thing. We're gonna watch it in December. He's gonna beat Jamie Pickett, and then next year, he's gonna fight 3 times, and then I honestly think by the end of next year, he's gonna be close to number 1 contender.
So what we're saying, like 10 days later, some no mark from England that they drag out. Then Gerard Milshart, Gilbert Burns.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, if he gets that kind of profile with this kind of villain status that Hamzat has taken on, we could have an amazing dynamic there.
Oh my God.
Captain America.
Yes, exactly. He comes out there. I know the UFC don't do the flag thing anymore. Like, they're not allowed to bring.
They will for Captain America, Joe.
But for
that's a soft rule.
For Bo Nickal, he comes out to I am a real American. And he comes out there. He's got that ginger hair. He's got that big smile. The pearly white teeth. Gives everyone a thumbs up, high fiving, and then Hamzat comes out screaming, "I'm gonna kill everyone!" Like that, and then Bo just clowns him. Shows that folk style is where it's at, and onto the title shot. If Hamzat hasn't fought for a title already,
so we're saying end of next year for this to all play out.
Oh, Hamzat! But oh my! Well, I don't know. It depends. If first off, if Hamzat gets his passport back, but that's.
Well,
I honestly, this is going to become an issue. This is going to become an issue.
Well, that's the other news. We should just touch upon that. Gets his passport back because he's being conscripted into the Russian army potentially. I mean, that is the gravity of what we're talking about.
That is very potentially going to happen. The other thing is, let's say he doesn't.
I mean, that adds to his villain status, Joe. That beefs his credentials if he. if he's dispatched to the front lines.
Fighting for Russia against... That'd be insane.
Jesus, yeah.
But the other thing is, let's say he doesn't even do that, and let's say he is able to go on and fighting. Is he going to be able to get back into the United States? That's where he is as a pay-per-view draw. He has to be in the United States, and I don't know if he's going to be able to with his links to Kadyrov. Tyson Fury cannot get into the United States for a fight, and that's why he has to fight in the UK now. And that's why he's looking at Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury's fighting on December 3rd in the UK, admittedly against Derek Chisora, which is awful. That is why boxing has fallen so far behind as well. I don't want to bring up these old points, but Derek Chisora fighting for the heavyweight title, that would be like Chris Dorcas fighting Francis Ngannou.
It's worse. It's Olenek, Joe. It's Olenek.
He's not even in the UFC anymore. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. But I honestly think now that Khamzat, it's hard for him. He's not going to be able to distance himself from Kadyrov, really.
I mean, they never shone a bright torch, for the Khabib camp on the murky background from which they emerged. I think if the draw is there, they're happy to turn a blind eye. But if Khamzat is gonna yell Allahu Akbar, and out
after saying I will kill everyone,
Joe, that's what happened.
Yeah,
that makes it hard to get into America.
Yeah,
you're gonna do that.
It really does.
That, you got to imagine you're trying to go through security. The TSA agent pulls you to the side. We've got some comments made by you in the past.
Yeah.
Now one could be like, smoke pot as a teenager.
Yeah.
You're not used to driving on the right side of the road. It's quite another thing to have said that in Las Vegas on the anniversary of 9/11.
Yes, it really is. I'm sorry for laughing, but it is quite an insane thing to have done. It goes to the Jack Slack theory that he's simple. It really does. It really does. Because anyone else, I feel like in that moment, even Khabib, he never said anything close to that, did he? And no. I always think about with Khabib when he fought Barbosa afterwards, was that he got on the mic and he's a Russian Muslim guy who has just beaten Barbosa, and he's talking smack, and the crowd are cheering for him in America. They are so enamored by this guy of this guy is incredible. He is the almost polar opposite of me as a human being. Yet I can't help but cheer this guy. Whereas, Khamzat misses weight, doesn't care, has basically been told by the UFC, don't worry about it. And then is telling, I will kill everybody on September 10th. It's not the best, is it? Anyway, Tom, should we talk about some nice stuff? Should we talk about some fight? Let's talk about some fight announcements. What do you want? Do you want one from the top, three from the bottom? What are we looking at? Do you want the best one that's going to get you most hyped?
The juice.
Chris Curtis is facing Joaquin Buckley.
Oh, they made it.
They made it for December on the pay-per-view. Oh, fantastic! That is going to be incredible.
The pay-per-view. Which pay-per-view are we talking about?
UFC 282.
Excellent.
Which is apparently going to be headlined by Prohashka versus Teixeira 2. Co-main event. Potentially one of the most boring fights in history. Ankalaev versus Blachowicz. It will be the co-main event. That's going to cool people. You're going to get you're going to get Curtis Buckley. You're going to cool off with Blachowicz, Ankalaev, and you're going to come back up for Prohashka.
At least it's got that light heavyweight Grand Prix feel.
Yes, it really does actually. Yes, we love a bit of that. But Buckley, Curtis, this is the best middleweight option for Buckley, isn't it? Because there's not going to be a guy who's going to be outreaching him.
Yeah,
it's not going to be, and also, Curtis isn't going to take him down. They're going to swang and bang. And I really favour Buckley in those exchanges against Chris Curtis, don't you?
I don't want to be too quick to run over Curtis.
No.
Very bad showing last time out. Kind of got found out a little bit. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to have the same issues with Buckley. I think it favours both men. They're both going to fight the fights they want to fight. Really exciting matchup. Bring that on. Give me that fight.
We've also got books. This was originally going to be Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar Evloev, but Evloev has had to pull out. So in his stead, it's going to be Ilia Topuria stepping in against Bryce Mitchell. Now, Mitchell's going to be facing a guy who can wrestle and can bang hard. That is going to be the test for Mitchell now, isn't it?
It's tough. I mean, Evloev would have been a hell of a test as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where Bryce is at right now. You know, these are the guys he has to fight. There is an easier path in featherweight. I lean towards Topuria instinctively.
Yes, same.
Now, you could pad it out for him, give him an easier fight. There is an easier path at featherweight, but you know, given that you've already accepted the challenge of Evloev, doesn't make a big difference to me if it's going to be Topuria, because that's the level that those guys are on. They're going to be in that top pack for me next year. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just haven't got there yet, and Bryce is the man they're going to go through to get there. That was my instinct.
For sure. At lightweight, Arman Sarukian will be facing Damir Ismagulov. The irritation on Tom's face right now is very real. Why? Like, why is this happening? I hate it.
Purists, guys. They want to see the best fighters fight each other. Let's take that interpretation. I mean, I did listen to, of course, the preview where you first mentioned this matchup, and you highlighted why it shouldn't happen now because it's going to happen later. They're so good, and they just want to disqualify and undermine one of these guys. But Joe, let's just take the fight as what it is. Let's put that indignation to one side. What a fight!
This is incredible.
What a fight! My God, that's so exciting.
Gut reaction right now. Who are you leaning to?
Oh,
he stumped.
My God, they're so good, Joe. They're so good.
They're so good.
Do you think, by the way, good.
Do you think like Poirier and Chandler...
Ismagulov. Yeah, I'm
no,
sorry.
Really?
Ismagulov. Yeah.
Oh, my word. I'm leaning ever so slightly to Sarukian. It's
hard not to, Joe. They're so good, these guys.
Let's talk about a fighter, by the way. This guy can't get a fight. This is what we're here to talk about. Guram Kutateladze says, I cannot get a fight offered to me. I'm out here all the time asking for these fights and no one's willing to fight me. Now, here's my suggestion for Kutateladze. He wants guys, he's looking into the rankings. I want a Jalen Turner. I want this, I want that. I actually think Kutateladze should look the other way and should face some guys who are behind him in the rankings, who are going to win. He's got a 1-1 record in the UFC. He should be fighting guys who he's going to beat.
Crush those cans, bro. Get that highlight reel. You know, use your mic time. Yeah, there's time. You know, let these other killers face off. Yeah, and you'll get your moment. Yeah, no room for him complaining. Just because that is his record in the UFC, I have more sympathy for Ismagulov, Joe.
Oh, for sure.
It's just crazy. I don't know. I think he's on a 6-fight streak now, all in the UFC, unbeaten.
I believe so. I'll bring up his run in a second.
It's 5 fights now. One of them being Kutateladze. All wins. The biggest question was the Kutateladze fight because it was such a high level matchup. And then you're going to stick him against Sarukian. That is fucking nuts. But
absolutely.
Do digress.
Now I'm going to switch promotion just very quickly to the PFL. I don't know if you saw this fight get booked. At featherweight, our boy Shane Burgos gets his PFL debut. Did you see who it was against? It's against Marlon Moraes at featherweight.
Oh no!
Yeah, Moraes.
What at featherweight?
Featherweight.
Oh my God! Why is Moraes fighting, Joe?
I don't know.
No, I'm not happy.
I don't know, man. Like this is.
Are you going to watch that? No.
Of course.
Are you actually?
Of course, I'm going to watch it. It's Burgos.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, we need to support Shane Burgos. We love a bit of Burgos on this podcast.
But Moraes, he's in such a bad way.
I know, and he said he retired. He said he retired.
I was sleeping well at night thinking he had retired, and then instead he's going to fight Burgos at featherweight in PFL. No, that's sad.
2 bits of news that we just want to get to, just very quickly. Francis Ngannou. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I want to talk about Francis, Joe.
Let's talk about Francis. What's going on?
Yeah, what is going on? Now, he's come out and he said he hasn't received any offer. We know the clock is ticking and he's out of contract at the end of this year. At that point, he can go his own way, I believe. His contract is cancelled. He can go to boxing. He can go to the PFL. He can go to Ryzen. He can do whatever he wants to do. He can go to wrestling.
Francis and Ryzen would be hilarious.
and he fight Bob Sapp. Now we lose the biggest star at heavyweight in the prime of his career, with a story unlike anything I've seen in the UFC.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna get, because the UFC are annoyed with Francis.
Joey, that's not going to happen. That is tragic.
I think it is going to happen. I think it's going to happen. They're just because they don't want to let him box. And I honestly think he will go into boxing and that's just where he's going to stay. He'll just stay in boxing. And I don't want this. I do not want this.
That's tragic. If we cannot get Francis Ngannou back defending his belt against John Jones, against Stipe, against whoever, that can wait. Then that's just tragic, I'm a massive fan. I think the guy is an absolute superstar, stands up for all the right things, and this would be the man winning,
Yeah,
this would be the machine, the corporate machine, breaking the little man. And Joe, we have to protest. This cannot happen. This is what we criticize about other sports. It's not actually going to be like that.
Particularly boxing as well. Yeah, I actually feel like it is going to be. I try to be positive with these things, but
originally you said they're getting back.
Yeah, this has turned me. It really has. Francis is a guy who he made the correct decision in his career of getting a manager who was not a UFC manager, in the pocket for the UFC. And he's like, I want this, these are my exact terms, and I'm willing to wait. And the fact is, he's willing to bet on himself of I'm willing to wait. What fights are out there for him in boxing? I don't think anything of much worth in our end of things. I don't want to see him fight Tyson Fury. What interest is there in that, really? But, whatever makes him the money and makes him happy, I'm happy to go with that. But in terms of my entertainment, I want to see him in the UFC. I want to see him against John Jones.
The sport loses so much.
Can you imagine, by the way, the feeling of John Jones, Francis Ngannou, they've come to the centre, the ref gives them their instructions, and they step back, and then the fight is about to start. That would be...
In Cameroon.
In Cameroon, with... what's the equivalent to that in the past? Is Carwin versus Lesnar?
I think it's even bigger than that. I think it's bigger than that, Joe.
Carwin Lesnar, that was a major feeling. That was a major moment.
I mean, that was just two absolute monster men swinging ham.
Yeah.
But in terms of the cultural significance, I just think Francis can be an icon. I think he is. He's just.
But the UFC don't want that though. They want the UFC to be the icon. They want that to be the major thing.
This is awful. We've already commented on the quality of these last two cards we've had. In the Apex, it's just trash. They're filling it with guys off the Contender Series, paying them $10,000, $20,000 if they win. People with no name recognition are barely tuning in to watch, and the UFC are sitting and thinking, "Well, we've got the ESPN deal. We don't need stars." No. Francis
you need stars.
Has to stay. Yeah.
You need stars. Otherwise, it's not worth. What are we building towards? Oh, what, you get to go off to the PFL and make more money there, or you get to go off to Bellator, you get to go off and box. That's what we're waiting for. It's just sad, isn't it? Right. Should we talk? I'll very, very quickly talk about this. Paddy Pimblett has announced that he's in camp. He's going to have a fight on UFC 282 in Vegas in December. No one's been announced yet, but there's been some rumours. There's been some hints. What do you feel like would be the fight for him? Because for me, there's a very clear one that I think would be a very good test for him. And
I'm anxious to hear it. I mean, he's got to fight in the rankings now, right? It's time.
Near enough the rankings.
Okay.
The one for me is Drew Dober. I think that it would be the best fight for him. It's a guy who's willing to trade on the feet and
I love it.
And has a slight flaw on the ground that Pimblett could take advantage of. But, it's going to be a test to get him there.
It sounds like a rock'em sock'em wild fight, doesn't it?
It does.
The kind of fight that Paddy's enjoyed and the kind of fight that Dober, he only knows how to fight that way. So,
yes.
That sounds great. And he also has a profile. He has some recognition. That sounds like a lot of fun. I will say no more. Other than that we have, we basically had the man who's fallen outside the UFC's favoured graces. You know, the light has been turned away from him in Ngannou. And Paddy, they love him. And they love him because he gets paid by Barstool Sports and the whole, you know, that whole setup there. That, again, is a parody of the sport.
Yeah.
Paddy shouldn't have had to go and appeal to these, you know, like betting promotions or whatever it's going to be. That's really, really sad. And that's the only reason this is all working out. That he can accept the bullshit from the UFC.
I know.
Because he's getting paid way more elsewhere. But he's got to sell himself for that.
Yeah. No, really. Really, really nonsense. I mean, I know he's just signed a new contract and he said he's happy with what he's getting paid, but it's like, it's probably still not enough and to what he's actually worth. Yeah. Right. I've got one question for you, Tom. A couple months left of the year. There's 3 big pay-per-views left. And there's 2 fights that are the ones that the fans are like clamoring for massively. And I'm just going to say straight up right now, which is the one for you? Oliveira Makhachev or Adesanya versus Pereira? What is the one that you're just... That fight boner is just rock hard at the thought of it. And you're just like, you're absolutely clamouring for it. Which out of those 2 that everyone is clamouring for, which out of those 2 is just that little bit ahead for you?
Joe, there's one that is just so tantalising because there's so much uncertainty about it. And that uncertainty comes not in 2 men who are excelling in one discipline, right? And I want to see who exceeds in that discipline. It's 2 men who come from slightly different disciplines that interact so beautifully with each other. The Sambo game versus the Jiu-Jitsu specialist. It is Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira next weekend. I cannot wait. I cannot wait because I do not know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I've no idea.
A case either side.
I have no idea what this fight is going to look like. Like, we're going to make predictions next week where we're both going to have these sort of hypothetical ideas. Well, this might happen or that might happen, or how is this going to interact? How is that going to... What part of this part of the game is... How is that going to work against them? We have no idea.
Tantalising.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Next week, UFC 280, we'll be back to preview that.
It doesn't stop there, Joe. Just to throw out a few more fights on there. Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw in the co-main. Petr Yan, he's going to face off against Sean O'Malley. Oh, is that enough for you, Joe? Because we've got Mateusz Gamrot fighting Beneil Dariush.
Oh, my God. I can't
Your
wait.
girl, Manon Fiorot. And then don't even get me started on the prelims. That blows a fight night card out of the water.
The prelims are incredible.
Prelims are incredible.
Have you got a prelim fight that you're just going to throw out for us?
Well, because of their positions in the division, I guess the headline prelim Brady versus Muhammad,
yes.
Bilal Muhammad. But you've also got Volkan Ozdemir, Nikita Krylov. You know, you've got you remember Caio Araujo?
Of course, yeah. The bully beatdown guy. What's
the Billy beatdown guy? He's fighting the former gay porn star, Mahmoud Muradov.
Yes!
It's all going on, Joe. What more do you want? Something for everybody.
What a sport. What a sport. I cannot wait. We will be back next week, listeners, to preview that. Thank you so much for joining us. And Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, great to have you back. All right, listeners, we'll be back next week. UFC 280 preview. Oliveira versus Makhachev for the lightweight title. We cannot wait.
See you next week.